Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Lisa, and I'm here to share some words by Oswald Chambers. The first one is titled, Am I Carnally Minded? Where there are envy, strife, and divisions among you, are you not carnal? 1 Corinthians 3, verse 3. The natural man or unbeliever knows nothing about carnality, the desires of the flesh warring against the spirit, and the spirit warring against the flesh, which began at rebirth, are what produce carnality and the awareness of it. But Paul said, Walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Galatians 5, verse 16. In other words, carnality will disappear. Are you quarrelsome and easily upset over small things? Do you think that no one who is a Christian is ever like that? Paul said they are, and he connected these attitudes with carnality. Is there a truth in the Bible that instantly awakens a spirit of malice or resentment in you? If so, that is proof that you are still carnal. If the process of sanctification is continuing in your life, there will be no trace of that kind of spirit remaining. If the Spirit of God detects anything in you that is wrong, He doesn't ask you to make it right. He only asks you to accept the light of truth, and then He will make it right. A child of the light will confess sin instantly and stand completely open before God. But a child of the darkness will say, "Oh, I can explain that." When the light shines and the Spirit brings conviction of sin, be a child of the light. Confess your wrongdoing, and God will deal with it. If, however, you try to vindicate yourself, you prove yourself to be a child of the darkness. What is the proof that carnality has gone? Never deceive yourself. When carnality is gone, you will know it. It is the most real thing you can imagine, and God will see to it that you have a number of opportunities to prove to yourself the miracles of His grace. The proof is in a very practical test. You will find yourself saying, "If this had happened before, I would have had the spirit of resentment." And you will never cease to be the most amazed person on earth at what God has done for you on the inside. And that is the end of the first one. And the second one is titled, Decreasing for His Purpose. He must increase, but I must decrease. John 3, verse 30. If you become a necessity to someone else's life, you are out of God's will. As a servant, your primary responsibility is to be a friend of the bridegroom. John 3, verse 29. When you see a person who is close to grasping the claims of Jesus Christ, you know that your influence has been used in the right direction. And when you begin to see that person in the middle of a difficult and painful struggle, don't try to prevent it, but pray that his difficulty will grow even 10 times stronger, until no power on earth or in hell could hold him away from Jesus Christ. Over and over again, we try to be amateur providences in someone's life. We are indeed amateurs, coming in and actually preventing God's will and saying, this person should not have to experience this difficulty. Instead of being friends of the bridegroom, our sympathy gets in the way. One day that person will say to us, "You are a thief. You stole my desire to follow Jesus, and because of you, I lost sight of Him." Beware of rejoicing with someone over the wrong thing, but always look to rejoice over the right thing. The friend of the bridegroom rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Therefore, this joy of mine is fulfilled. He must increase, but I must decrease. John 3, verses 29 and 30. This was spoken with joy, not with sadness. At last they were to see the bridegroom, and John said this was his joy. It represents a stepping aside, an absolute removal of the servant, never to be thought of again. Listen intently with your entire being until you hear the bridegroom's voice in the life of another person, and never give any thought to what devastation, difficulties, or sickness it will bring. Just rejoice with godly excitement that his voice has been heard. You may often have to watch Jesus Christ wreck a life before he saves it. Matthew 10, verse 34. And that's the end of the second one. And the last one I'd like to share with you is titled, Maintaining the Proper Relationship. The Friend of the Bridegroom. John 3, verse 29. Goodness and purity should never be traits that draw attention to themselves, but should simply be magnets that draw people to Jesus Christ. If my holiness is not drawing others to Him, it is not the right kind of holiness. It is only an influence which awakens undue emotions and evil desires in people and diverts them from heading in the right direction. A person who is a beautiful saint can be a hindrance in leading people to the Lord by presenting only what Christ has done for him instead of presenting Jesus Christ himself. Others will be left with this thought, what a fine person that man is. That is not being a true friend of the bridegroom. I am increasing all the time. He is not. To maintain this friendship and faithfulness to the bridegroom, we have to be more careful to have the moral and vital relationship to him above everything else, including obedience. Sometimes there is nothing to obey, and our only task is to maintain a vital connection with Jesus Christ, seeing that nothing interferes with it. Only occasionally is it a matter of obedience. At those times when a crisis arises, we have to find out what God's will is. Yet most of our life is not spent in trying to be consciously obedient, but in maintaining this relationship, being the friend of the bridegroom. Christian work can actually be a means of diverting a person's focus away from Jesus Christ. Instead of being friends of the bridegroom, we may become amateur providences of God to someone else, working against him while we use his weapons. And that is the end of these words. I pray you all have a beautiful day in the Lord. God bless each and every one of you, and I will see you either next video or in the air. Bye-bye.